Steps into it. Pass is caught. Diggs! Sideline!
Touchdown! Unbelievable! Vikings win it!
Strap yourself in and get ready.
And here we go!
The leaders in fantasy football are incoming, giving you the ultimate insight to help you win your leagues and dominate your mates. You're now listening to the Insight NFL Show with your hosts, Guns and Maverick.
Welcome to the NFL. Let's go! Let's go! Go!
In the wise words of Eminem, guess who's back? Back again. Anthony Richardson is back as a starting quarterback, and we're back for another episode of the Insight NFL Show. As always, I'm your host, Nathan from Supercoach Guns, and with me, as always, is Matt, aka NFL Maverick. Matt, how are you going?
Not too bad, mate. I do have Anthony Richardson in now 3 leagues. Just picked him up off the waivers in our League of Insight for 21 fab to sit on the pine. So hopefully he doesn't shit the bed again for me. But take 2.
Take 2. And you know what they say? The comeback, I don't know what they say, but the comeback's going to be ridiculous. He is here. Maybe. No, definitely not. But he's back starting. It means that my fantasy season's not entirely lost across many, many, many leagues. I was looking at starting Cooper Rush and Mac Jones in a Superflex league this week. So, Anthony Richardson's going to be an upgrade on that.
Has to be.
On rushing alone, he's probably an upgrade on both of them.
Yeah, well, both those 2 QBs aren't standard for the NFL starting wise.
No. But if all goes well, Trey Lance will start, so I'll have Lance and Richardson in a league. And those who have followed Supercoach Guns for a while will know that is almost my dream. That is almost my dream starting duo. Now, I think we should waste zero time and get straight into the games. So, Commanders, Eagles, prime time. This is shaping up to be a heck of an NFL game, but maybe a quiet fantasy game.
Maybe. Actually, I don't think it will be. I think I'm going to look at this both ends pretty quickly, but I think the secondary at the Washington Commanders is pretty skeptical. So I think that there's a really good opportunity for AJ Brown and Devontae Smith to both go nuts. There's an opportunity there for Dallas Goedert to go nuts. There's an opportunity for Saquon Barkley to go nuts. And there's also an opportunity for Jalen Hurts to go for 4 touchdowns as well. So all in all, man, I think for the Eagles, this could be a big, big game. On the other end of the scale with the Commanders, there's only really the Eagles' defense has got better and better as the season's gone along, really. And McLaurin looks like he's probably the only safe option at the moment going around because he is pretty much nearly safe for 90-plus yards each week. Just needs a touchdown to go along with it for a big, big game.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I'd like to factor into this game when you're looking at the Eagles' offensive weapons against that secondary is now they haven't actually had a game where they've had Marshall Lattimore play yet. He comes straight in. So
that's a big get.
It's a big get. It pretty much locks down. It might well lock down AJ Brown. Might. I say might. It certainly puts a cap on his ceiling, that's for sure. And I'm not sure if I'm willing to go ahead and say that this is going to be a big game for the Eagles in terms of their attack.
Yeah, we'll see. I feel like this game could be like a shootout, to be honest with you. This has got like a making of a real big, big game. And a divisional matchup game too. Probably the 2 best teams, well, actually the best 2 teams in the division. And probably 2 solid teams probably in the NFC. So, this could be awesome, man. I'm really looking forward to this game. I'm hoping Scary Terry can just keep on going on with these big, big upside because he's sitting currently as the wide receiver 5, albeit that he hasn't had his bye yet. But all in all, mate, he's been awesome since like week 3 onwards.
Yeah, and like there was that one game where he had 2 catches for 19 yards, still managed to score twice on those 2 catches.
Yeah,
So, like, no matter what, he'll do well. We've got a quick question here, sort of related to the, oh, not sort of related, definitely related to the Commanders. It says Brian, but he means Brian Robinson or Cedric Tillman in the flex. I think we might both agree and say it's Cedric Tillman, but I'll get your thoughts.
yeah, I agree. Brian Robinson off the injury. Yep, I agree. I don't have the balls to really expect him to go off this week. He'll be okay. But Cedric Tillman's got that upside for 15 plus for the big upside risky play.
Here's a fun stat for you. I believe. Oh, actually, I will fact check that because I did remember that Jamar Chase scored like 60 points last week, so I don't know if it's true. But Cedric Tillman was looking like the wide receiver 1 of the last month in points per game, which is
That
ridiculous.
would shock me.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll look at that whilst we go through this next game, which is the Packers and the Bears. Now, this is a good in-division rival game. What stands out to you in this one when you look at it?
Now, first things first, mate, it has to be starting with the Bears side of things. They've just sacked their offensive coordinator in Shane Waldron. And the highlights that I've seen, the play calling has been atrocious. So it's fair enough he did get sacked or fired as such. Sacked is probably an NFL term. But yeah, no, it's fair enough that he was let go for sure. But what stands out for me the most is getting DJ Moore involved this week. He's the best wideout they've got. He's an elite route runner. There's no reason why he should be getting 2 or 3 catches a game. That's embarrassing. So I want to see just give us some quick slants. Just give us something for DJ Moore. Get him involved early. Now, there's been a bit of chat on social media between him and McKinney. Not on social media, but like interviews as such about him and McKinney. So looks like that matchup's getting a bit personal. So I'm expecting DJ Moore to, even though it is a tough matchup, I'm expecting him to bounce back.
Yeah, I think DJ Moore, we need him to bounce back if you're an owner. I saw him drop to waivers and picked up off waivers this week. So people are clearly at their wits' end about him. Well, not wits' end, that's the wrong phrase. At their, I don't know what the saying is. I'm all over the shop. You
I've
know
had
what
enough.
I mean. They've had enough. There you go. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see yet again, and we call for this just about every week. I'd like to see some consistency from Jaden Reed.
Sure.
He's their wide receiver 1. I think we can probably lock that in now. But some weeks he plays like he's their wide receiver 1. Some weeks he's just a non-factor in the offense.
Yeah.
I want to see, and he did just have a good week last week, 5 catches for 113 yards. If he can, before the bye, sorry. If he can back that up against Chicago, which is going to be tough because he's against Jalen Johnson, but I'm sure they can use him in so many ways, right?
Well,
Yeah.
This is another game where they've got like both sides of the field have got really good solid weapons they can use offensively. That have been in and out of the season all year, pretty much. Like, you look at the Bears side of things, you got Swift, DJ Moore, Komet, Keenan Allen, Adunze. Like, they're solid offensive weapons, right? But you look at the other side of the pill, and the Packers have got Josh Jacobs, Reed, Christian Watson, Dobbs, Tucker Kraft. Like, again, just solid options here. So I want to see all these guys try and it's not going to happen where they all get involved, but maybe some consistency out of maybe even Tucker Kraft as well. To be honest, he's very brim or bust. It feels like, and that seems like the whole tight end position as a whole, really. But he'll have a week where he goes off for 22, and then have a week where he goes off for 2 catches for 10 yards. So it's going to be tough though. They're 2 solid defenses.
Yes, it's going to be a bit of a grind. I'm glad this one's on at 5 a.m. in the morning and not in prime time. The Jags and the Lions, speaking of tough to watch, Mac Jones will be the starter for the Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence is out. We sort of saw the re-emergence of Travis Etienne in his backfield last week. Now, obviously, it took an ankle injury to Tank Bigsby for that to happen. But I think what we saw from him, it was okay without being amazing. What did we see from him? We saw, 11 carries for 44 yards. He had 68% of the snaps as well in the absence of Tank Bigsby. Um, I'm hoping that snap share stays up with Bigsby at DNP today. But if it doesn't, well, we're back where we were before, where neither are really startable, but Bigsby's slightly more, isn't he?
Well, I don't think Bixby plays this week. No, he hasn't practiced and
Mm.
didn't really return to the game at all last week, or he might have and went straight back out. So I don't think he plays this week. And look like it's going to be the Eddie show against a really, really solid Lions defense, especially against the running backs as well. They're one of the better teams in the league at stopping running backs. So yeah, it's going to be hard and a shitty offense too, where game script might be not well. They have to throw the ball because they'll be down by multiple scores, you'd imagine. So yeah, it's going to be hard to really trust Eddie in this week. Well, it's going to be hard to trust any Jags player at all, including Brian Thomas Jr., who his season could be done fantasy wise if T Law's out for the year, which is the rumor going around. And same with Ingram too, because Mac Jones just isn't NFL quality as a starter.
No, and like that offense is already not great. It could be and it could be absolute cesspit if Lawrence is out for the year. Um, on the flip side, though, an offense that is well and truly humming is the Detroit Lions. You've got Jared Goff, who somehow, and I wasn't here on Monday, somehow threw five interceptions and managed to win, which is crazy.
Unbelievable.
And then you've got actually that offense wasn't very good last week. Now that I think about it, you've got Jameer Gibbs, David Montgomery. What's the nickname? Sonic and something.
Knuckles.
Sonic and Knuckles. There you go. They'll keep on going. I think this is going to be a pretty soft matchup for them offensively. It could be. It's the sort of game where I'd be smash starting Montgomery. I just think
Mate.
it's like he could be doing 25 carries in this thing.
I think they're all smash starts, to be honest with you.
Oh, yeah.
There's not one player that you can't start. Mate, even Jamison Williams would be a good one to start this week as well. I have no problem with that. But Sam Laporta might miss. He did not practice today.
Ooh.
So he's got that shoulder injury, DMP. Probably unlikely. I reckon they might rest him this week. So that's good news for Jamison Williams anyway, to be honest.
Yep. And another thing to factor in here is that the Lions have, if you for some reason are a Mac Jones owner, if you're desperate at quarterback, which some people are, Zadarius Smith will make his debut for the Lions this week. Now, what impact does Zadarius Smith have on Mac Jones? Not much, but it's just going to be even more defensive pressure right in his face. That's really all I'm alluding to there. Now, geez, okay. Raiders, Dolphins. Word on the street is that Desmond Ridder will start at quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, that is grim. It is grim.
Actually?
I think it actually is. I was listening to the fantasy footballers today. Desmond Ridder is going to start.
I just got 12 hours ago. Minshew starting in week 11.
Huh? Okay, well, I don't know what I read then. Well, I don't know what they read and I heard. Anyway, well then, okay. Well, it could be Desmond Ridder, it could be Gardner Minshew. Point is, we probably see both in this game. Let's be honest.
Probably, yeah.
Running backs, I'm not interested in. How's Alexander Madison going on the year?
Shit.
Yeah, he's down to less than 10 carries. Amir White no, he hasn't made a resurgence. Okay, sweet. We can move on from that.
The only one's Myers, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers, and like they're hanging on by a thread. If Ridder comes in at quarterback, they're gone. Maybe not Bowers, but Myers certainly.
Especially against a tough secondary too. Like it's going to be hard to play the risky Myers in the. Like he's been good the last 2 or 3 weeks, might I add. Yeah. But yeah, it's going to be a tough matchup this week.
He's very underrated actually as an NFL wide receiver. Like he put up a great season last year, and he's followed it up again. But like you need something. He needs something for him. And Minshew's a better quarterback for fantasy. He's probably just a better quarterback. But it looks like it's a matter of if not when for not if for Ritter at this point, unfortunately. On the flip side, as we say, not Desmond Ritter, Devon A Chain continues to be a top 5 running back with Tua back at quarterback. Yeah, all over him this week yet again.
For sure. It's going to be a big matchup for him, and potential to go boom yet again, as you said, and fully expecting him to do so. But the one that stands out to me the most is both Tyreek and Waddle. This is alarm bells to a degree for me for fantasy. Tyreek Hill was okay last week, had his second receiving touchdown on the year, which is incredible for someone who's so talented. But Jalen Waddle at this point would be very, very close to droppable in redraft leagues, and that's sad to say. Someone who's so quality as such as him would be droppable, but mate, unfortunately, he hasn't really been scoring that well. He's like that landmine on your roster that you just a wasted spot, really, at the moment. But this is probably the week where I want to see both of these guys bounce back. If we can get these guys to 80 plus receiving yards each and maybe even a score, I might change my mind. But Tyreek Hill is battling that injury, that wrist injury too. So we'll see how he goes. But hey, he should. I still think they should both score pretty well this week.
Well, on the topic of Tyreek Hill, we have a question here. Would you trade Tyreek Hill for DK Metcalf? Now, part of me says, let's assume this is redraft. Okay. I don't know that you do get DK Metcalf for Tyreek Hill at the current value this year.
You probably don't. And it all depends on your situation as well, right? If you're like a top 2, top 3, top 4 team, let's say, in your league, I think you actually keep Tyreek Hill because just in case he does bounce back and he becomes Tyreek Hill again, then you've got a top 3 receiver. But if you're looking for immediate action, maybe you do it and try and get DK Metcalf in if you need wins instantly. Because, again, as much as I like Tyreek Hill's matchup this week, I am still nervous that he won't score big like we're used to seeing. So, which DK Metcalf, if he does play, we don't know if he's actually even playing it, but he should. Has potential.
He was full at practice today, full participants. That's a good sign.
I read it was limited, but he should come back.
What am I? Is like my media completely different to everyone else's today? Yeah, full participant. Full participant. There we go.
There you go.
Okay. From Rappaport, that's got to be a good sign, surely.
That's pretty close.
Yeah. This is just as bad. The Rams and the Patriots. Jeez, some shocking games. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I like the chances of Kyle Williams scoring a touchdown in this one, as always.
Yep.
That's just the way he goes, right? Like, he scored a touchdown. No, he hasn't scored a touchdown for the last 2 weeks against Seattle and Miami. There you go. I'm going to say that changes and he makes up for it and scores 3. There you go. There's my bold prediction.
3.
I'll go 3. 3 touchdowns for Kyron Williams. There you go. On the flip side of things, Christian Gonzalez probably locked down Puka Nakua to a degree, which therefore means Cooper Kupp is a smash start in my mind. Actually, I'll put it to you. Who would you, if you're Christian Gonzalez, or not, if you're a defense coordinator against the Rams, you've got Gonzalez, are you marking Nakua or Kupp?
I think he just rotates between two of them. I don't think you'll see a defined matchup as such. But he'll see majority of the time on Puka.
Yeah. So it's not a don't start Puka. It's just temper expectations, I think, really. Because he'll still have volume, I think. He just might not have as much yardage or possibly no touchdowns. One thing I wanted to note is that Davis Allen took over as the Rams tight end 1 last week. 80% of the snaps, 6 catches on 5 targets for 34 yards. Now, if you're struggling, tight ends are sucky this year. And to be honest, he'd be on the majority of people's waivers still, I reckon. So if you need tight end coverage this week, because say you're a Trey McBride owner, It's not the worst idea to go get Davis Allen and just plug and play him this week.
Yeah, if you need a streaming option for sure, I agree. Again, it's hard because tight ends suck, but yeah, if you need a streaming option and you're real desperate, then he would be not a bad option to go.
Mm. On the flip side, we can be brief here. Are you starting? I'll ask you about Drake May. Are you starting Drake May this week?
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to it. He's been perfectly okay this year so far. And the matchup isn't like it's a shitty matchup. It's just a middle of the road. So I'd be okay with that. Again, he's got the rushing upside there to his game. So yeah, if you need to, yep, absolutely fine.
There you go. I don't think there's much to cover in terms of anything else there for the Patriots. So let's go to the next one. We've got the um, what is it? The Browns and the Saints. Now, earlier on, I was talking about Cedric Tillman. Well, in the post Deshaun Watson era, I suppose, the Jameis Winston era, or this year, um, he has been the wide receiver 2 in points per game. Now, and that's only just if you take out, I say if you take out, you can't really, but Jamar Chase's 55-point game puts him ahead by 0.3 points per game in the well this year. Like, so what I'm trying to say here is that Jamar Chase's massive historical game sort of thing only just puts him ahead of Cedric Tillman on the season for points a game. So Cedric Tillman's a every week start in my mind when you've got Jameis Winston who's not going to be afraid to throw it, and he's putting up the numbers.
Yep, and against a really, really average secondary too. So everyone else has been able to score points on them this year, apart from the Cowboys. Um, so yeah, I don't see why this wouldn't be another nice game here for Tillman. The only thing I could say is the game script would be the only thing like they got ahead. But then again, there's two pretty shitty teams as well, so this could be a pretty tight game.
It could be. There's a chance this is like a 30 versus 30 sort of thing. A
Uh,
real shootout. Well, because the defenses aren't going to be very good.
I
Derek
was thinking
Carr's
17 all.
you're thinking 17 all. Brilliant. Well, I mean, it could be that as well. I mean, I don't know, but on paper, I think not the Cowboys, the Browns have the better side.
Yeah,
Now, last week we saw Alvin Kamara 100 yards of scrimmage, almost as always. No reason not to start him this week, of course. But the interesting point was Marquez Valdez Scandling, the wide receiver 2 on the week last week, I suppose. 3 catches for 109 yards and 2 touchdowns. Yes, is he a flex option this week?
I haven't got the pills, mate. What did he have? He had 3 catches last week. 2 of them were a 60-yard touchdown. So maybe not 60, but 40 plus. So yeah, three catches, 3 targets.
Yeah.
So very long ball dependent. So no, I don't have the pills. But in saying that, he could get out and break out for one.
He could. And
Derek Carr will.
Yeah.
Derek Carr will air it out.
Yeah.
He'll
have
be
no
afraid
choice
to air
to.
it out. Yeah. So I
Like,
wouldn't be shocked if he does it.
it's check downs to the running back, it's short throws to the tight end, or it's air it out to MVS, right?
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
on the topic of this game, Njoku or Hawkinson to start this week?
Njoku.
Interesting. I'm saying Hawkinson. There you go. There you go. Bit of division, and we'll get. Well, I suppose you tell me why you go Njoku over Hawkinson right now, and
Well,
I'll cover mine later.
I think he's the focal point of this offense. I think with Jameis under center as well, he's just going to be peppered all day. There's if he has a stat line of 7 for 75 and a touchdown, I wouldn't be shocked. but you could also say the same thing for Hawkinson as well. You wouldn't be shocked about that either. So they're both two very good tight ends. But if I had to pick a head-to-head this week, I'd roll with I would roll with Njoku based off his matchup compared to Hawkinson's.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Jets Colts. Now, he's back. As I mentioned at the top of the show, the kid is back. Anthony Richardson is starting again. What does this mean for the wide receivers? I think we all know what this means for the wide receivers. Can't start any of them. Now,
Yeah.
that's at least it's true. You'd be brave to start any of them, that's for sure. You'd probably get away with Josh Downs as a starter, I think.
Yeah,
and-
only one.
Yeah, and here's why. Because the Jets, since firing Robert Saleh, have conceded the second most points in the NFL.
Funny
I
that.
think it's worth a shot keeping Josh Downs in your starting lineup this week. Am I starting Pittman? No. Pierce? No. AD Mitchell? No. I'd be starting Richardson just because, you're looking at a guy that'll run. There's every chance of a bomb downfield. It's just the way it is. It'll be the 15.2 projected seems pretty fair to me personally in PPR. Now, and then Jonathan Taylor's an every week start.
Yeah. So I'm in a situation in one of my leagues where I've got both Richardson and Derek Carr.
Richardson,
and
surely.
I have to pick one, and I think I'm going to roll out Richo this week.
For the fun of it.
I think it's going to happen. But yeah, look, I'm looking for this guy to be sitting on the bench the last couple of weeks and really been taking in where his mistakes have been. And some of them are just genuine skill issues, and a lot of them are just poor reads. So I'm hoping that the poor reads, he's saw Flacco done exactly the same thing, and shit, I wouldn't have done that, and just learn. So have a bit of fire in your belly coming into this week. Show them why they shouldn't have benched you, and perform to even just a half decent game would be a pass mark for him at this point. If he comes out and stinks it up, fucking hell, that'd be a disaster. But yeah, they've got the offense is good enough, mate, to like with Josh Downs, Pittman, Jonathan Taylor, AD Mitchell, Alec Pierce. Like this offense is good enough to string together like at least a 250 yard passing game. It's good enough to do it.
It is. It's just whether, and this is harsh, but it's whether Richardson's smart enough to say, to read an NFL defense. Now the history suggests that this season, no, he's not. And he's only been sitting for 2 weeks. How much has he learned? I don't know. But maybe like the benching's just sparked something in him. Like you just never know, do you?
Yeah, and look, he has been injured too. He came off the injury, so hopefully those last 2 weeks he has sort of, got a bit more fresh as well to go with it too. So, look, if he comes out and passes for 200 yards and has, I don't know, a passing touchdown and passes over 60% of his passes and then has like 50 rushing yards for maybe even a rushing touchdown, I'd be like, yep, that's a really, really positive game. The Jets defense has been crap since Salah's gone, but in saying that, the Jets defense still is pretty good on paper. So I'd expect these guys to fire up too.
Yeah. Now on the flip side, you've got Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams, Breece Hall. The Colts defense isn't fantastic, actually.
No.
So start all 3 of them. I'd be comfortable starting Rodgers as well in a super flex. Like it should be a solid day if they can get their act together. This is one of my favorite matchups of the week, if not my favorite. Second. I'll put it second. My second favorite matchup of the week: the Ravens and the Steelers, the Deontay Johnson revenge game. Who apparently Mike Tomlin's not even going to look at because he's not that relevant on the Baltimore Ravens.
That's pretty funny.
And he'd be right in saying that. He'd be right in saying that because he played 30% of the snaps on debut and 8% of the snaps last week. So Deontay Johnson, is he washed? Thoughts?
Is he washed? No. Does he need more opportunity? Sure. I think Deontay Johnson's I think he's fine. I think that's a bit harsh. I think there's just some bad blood there from how that ended with Deontay Johnson. So they're obviously going to be going back and forth with a lot of yap. But yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't start him obviously in fantasy this week, and you can't start him until he's actually relevant again. But is he washed? No.
Washed. Trust. Derrick Henry, the king. This is his toughest matchup yet in terms of, well, just at odds to score a touchdown. I think it's the lowest odds he would have. Maybe outside of week 1 against Kansas City. Now, of course, you're starting him because he's the RB1 on the year. So you can't not start him. But I wouldn't be relying on a big score from Henry this week. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, it's one of those temporary expectation weeks for Derrick Henry. But in saying that, he'll probably score a rushing touchdown anyway, and then I'll boost his score up.
Yeah.
So
he'll make you look like an idiot. Yeah,
he'll still probably score 10 plus anyway. So a bad game for him is 12 points at this point. So I still think he'll be fine. Start him and still start him and be confident he'll go big because he's got the capabilities. I think he just loves a challenge. And just wants to deck blokes on the way through. So the one for me, mate, Zay Flowers. That's probably the one that I'm looking at this week for him to bounce back because he's very inconsistent week to week. 1 week he'll go bonkers, next week he'll score, 5 points. So I want to see him in motion, moving around because he's very hard to stop when he does move around. And he's very zippy on his feet when he can catch the ball after and get on his feet after a catch. So look for him to be heavily involved this week, I reckon, mate.
And then, of course, you've got Mark Andrews, who came back from the dead after those shocking first 5 weeks and has now scored, that's 5 touchdowns in 5 weeks. So that summarizes the tight end position perfectly, Mark Andrews this year. Now, on the Steelers, you've got Najee Harris, who is questionable, but they think he will play. They think he will play this week. So that's something to monitor if you are a Harris or even a Jalen Warren owner, because if Jalen Warren is the sole back, meaning Najee Harris is out, if it's just Jalen Warren, he's a high-end RB2 in this offense.
Yeah, especially his pass catching ability too. So absolutely, it'd be a nice play if Najee misses. But if Najee plays, then Warren just goes back to your bench and again just sits there until that opportunity arises again where Najee might miss.
Yeah, because there's no split backfield really. That split backfield thing that had last 2 years is dead. Like Najee's taken over, and maybe that was just taken over again. Maybe that was just all they needed was a change in scheme, new quarterbacks in the building. Maybe that's all it needed, because not only has Najee Harris been unlocked under Russell Wilson, but George Pickens has too. He has come out and gone, okay, he had a quite a week, I suppose, against the New York Giants back in week 8, but Russell Wilson's 3-0. He's had a wide receiver 4 finish, a wide receiver 44 finish, and a wide receiver 5. Now, he hasn't actually gone below double digits in either of those 3 games. So, and he's had 2 20-plus scores in PPR. So, it's looking good for George Pickens. But this is a hard matchup and probably one of his hardest of the year.
I don't think it is. I think the Ravens defense has been pretty tough, mate. Been pretty shit, to be honest with you, mate. And I think this might be the week where George Pickens actually goes bonkers. Everyone else has seemed to sort of do it, but the Ravens have been good enough just to put points on the board to pass that through. But no, mate, I really like Pickens this week. I think he's safe. He's got a safe floor with a very high ceiling.
All right, interesting. Now, Vikings, Titans, polar opposite records here. Um, as I alluded to before, Hawkinson is back. He only played 46% of the snaps last week, still finished as the tight end 5 with 8 catches for 72 yards. Need I remind you that Hawkinson finished last year in the top 5 tight ends despite having missing 2.5 games. So, and also in points per game, he was tight end 2 by less than point 0.1 of a point to Travis Kelsey in points per game last year. So when he's playing, Hawkinson is in the Kelsey, McBride, Kittle category, even Bowers now probably as well. So he's in that category, and his value is very cheap. And for a lot of leagues, it is a trade deadline coming up. And I heard today on the aforementioned Fantasy Footballers podcast that his run home, the schedule he's got is the best for tight ends. So if you're looking for an upside play, something that will get you over the line or get you to the fantasy championship, I think trading for Hawkinson whilst you still can is the move.
I don't disagree. I really don't disagree. Addison's probably the one that's taken a back seat. He's nearly borderline droppable in all leagues. I think he's coming in as a wide receiver 62, and it's really going to be Justin Jefferson and Hawkinson and Aaron Jones, obviously, as the running back for this offense. So, Matt, I had 8 catches last week for 72 yards. This matchup against the Titans is going to be a bit harder for him. Yeah, all in all, mate, this could be a really nice play for Hawkinson for the remainder of the season. And again, a cheap buy, as you said. He shouldn't cost an arm and a leg.
Yeah, like when you're thinking about top 5, like elite tight ends, even in Dynasty, like elite tight ends, you're thinking maybe multiple firsts, right? Like, because it takes a lot. When you get an elite tight end, like it does genuinely put you in the fantasy championship conversation, right? I managed to pick him up for a late first round pick. In a no, it would be a 12-team league. Yeah, a late first round pick, and I was ecstatic because that's all I needed. A tight end. I was a tight end away, and now I have a super team. So I think you got to go chasing some of these guys, and Hawkinson's my favorite because his value is low because he's returning from injury, but the ceiling that he's shown already and he has shown last year is to rival Kelsey for tight end 1.
Yeah, I don't disagree on that. I think it's pretty well put there. I will say on the other side of things, I mean, I think that the Vikings, apart from Addison, you'd still start them anyway. I think Darnold would be fine too. If you need to start him, that's fine. Even though he had a bad week last week, but just put that down as an off week. But on the Titan side of things, man, I'm interested to see how Pollard goes. He saw, I think, his second least snaps of the year last week. So Tajay Spears did return and everyone thinks that might be the beneficiary. But I think game script was the reason why Pollard was sort of saw less and less time. The game was done pretty early on. So, but I'm just interested to see if that's the case again this week because Pollard this year has been awesome. He's been able to carry 20 plus, had 20 plus carries and use the ball efficiently too. So, yeah, interested to see how that goes out. I'd play Pollard this week still, no problem with that. But I just want to see how they use him this week.
Yeah, what was the snaps? Yeah, he only played 54% of the snaps last week. Obviously the 46% from Tajay Spears. So yeah, that is something worth monitoring. The rest of the offense, Calvin Ridley, he's had a slight resurgence the last 3 weeks. Obviously, he had that massive first quarter with Mason Rudolph was at quarterback where he had 10 catches for 143 yards in that game on 15 targets. Then he's gone 5 for 73. the week before, 2 weeks ago, and then 5 for 84 and 2 touchdowns, just the last week. So he's sort of bounced back after looking almost washed. Washed is a yeah. I'm gonna go with washed. Yeah, looking almost gone. Um, and he's got a very nice run home. Very nice run home. There's another guy you could buy low on if you because he won't cost much.
Well,
Or yeah,
um, well, he's got a really nice matchup this week. I mean, the Vikings give it the third most points per game to wide receivers. So if that's anyone this week, you'd expect Ridley to be the guy who'd be the biggest beneficiary of a nice score.
yeah. No, sorry, I lost you there for a couple of seconds, but you're back. Now the Falcons and the Broncos. You've got Kirk Cousins against this Broncos defense. This could be a real grinding game. Real grinding game. I think it's going to come down to Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier probably doing 10 to 15 carries each at least, because Patrick Surtain will shut down the passing game, which shuts down Drake London. Um, and unless Kyle Pitts I suppose you've got Darnell Mooney and Kyle Pitts still. So maybe there's still some signs of life for the offense, for the passing offense. But I do you start Drake London this week with the Surtain tag?
Yeah, probably.
Mhm.
If you've got better options sitting on your bench, then yeah, roll with that. But I'm a big believer you just play your best. Again, I know tough matchups, and yep, he might claim another victim here. But Satani, there's every chance he will. He's probably a better chance that he doesn't. But I'm a big believer you just play your best players, and Drake London is probably another player that hasn't really told me otherwise where he can't go off. And but again, the whole Broncos defense has been really, really solid too. So Darnell Mooney, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, they're not going to have a cakewalk, but I think they're going to lean on Bijan a lot in this game.
Mm. Now, I'll quickly highlight you to this. Trade Mahomes, Brian Thomas, and Lad McConkey for Josh Allen and Malik Neighbors. He's in a 2 QB, 3 flex spot league. Other quarterbacks are Tua, Gino, and Drake May. His other wide receivers are ridiculous as well. Chase, Drake London, Debo, Terry. What is this, a 4-man league or something? Like
It seems like
that
it.
is ridiculous. Look, if you're receiving Allen and Neighbors, which I think you are, I don't think that's enough to get those two. If you've been offered that, you accept it. But if you're offering that, that's not enough.
Well, if you're getting that Josh Allen and neighbors, that's a certainty to crunch that immediately. Because if Lawrence is out for the year, then Brian Thomas' season's done for
Yeah.
fantasy relevancy. So absolutely, and Lad McConkey's just up and down at the moment. So yep, all day.
In saying that, if you're pursuing Allen Neighbors, you're gonna have to throw in. Maybe you have to take out Lad McConkey for Terry McLaurin. Like, yeah, it's not enough. I don't think. If you're trying to initiate that. Now back to the Broncos. Audric Estime. He has taken over the backfield.
Yeah,
I'm kind of excited by this. Like, there's a fair bit of hype around him. He's a young bruising back. He had 45% of the snaps last week. I expect that to go up again this week. Only 14 carries. I reckon that goes up as well. Because I think there's enough signs from Estime that he can be a bell cow. And so he would have been picked up on a lot of waivers this week. I'm overreacting, but there's league winning upside to Estime being the back for the Broncos now.
yeah, I like the pickup, mate. I think it's a nice pickup there for him. Javonte Williams is pretty much done. He had one carry last week, so it seems like they're going to try and explore other options. And they did draft Estime in the draft, so yep, they're going to roll with him until proven otherwise. Because I think he'll have at least 2 or 3 cracks at it or weeks to prove that he's not it. So he'll have opportunity there to show. So, yeah, mate, absolutely. Would you play him this week? I think if you need a flex, if you're desperate, yeah, sure. But again, he's fine to sit in your bench to see how he goes. And if he goes
Yeah.
bonkers this week, then in he comes next week.
Yeah, I would. I think you sit him this week. See what you're looking at. Is it still a committee to some extent? Like is the team mate now Javonte Williams from earlier this year, in the sense that sure he's the lead guy, but he's still only getting 10 to 15 carries on a good day. If it's that, then it's a flex play on a good matchup, right? But if they've moved to a very run heavy game now that they trust Estimo or Estime, or I don't know, you know who I mean. If they trust him, no worries, roll with him. Now, Seahawks 49ers. This is a heck of a game because DK is back. DK, you've got Jackson Smith and Jigba. Uh, JSN obviously had that massive breakout game 2 weeks ago where he had 7 catches for 180 yards and 2 touchdowns on 13 targets. You've got Kenneth Walker, who's putting up career best numbers. And Gino, who's putting up career best passing yards, I suppose. Yeah, kind of makes sense. Yep.
Yeah.
Now, the flip side is that Christian McCaffrey is back for the 49ers. And he didn't really miss a beat. He had 88% of his snaps, 88% of snaps on return. That'll continue. He's questionable this week, but I think that's just how he'll be for the rest of the season.
Pretty much, yeah. Absolutely, mate. This is going to be a big matchup for the whole season as such. I think Juwan Johnson's a sneaky good flex option this week.
Or Jennings even.
Sorry, Juwan Jennings. Sorry. What did I say?
Juwan Johnson, Saints tight end.
Sorry, Juwan Jennings is a nice flex play this week. He looks like he's a nice little focal point of the offense, and he could be a sneaky league winner for someone too. Because I think he just provides when he gets the opportunity. So knows the system quite well, and comes up big for him. So yep, I like that. I actually like every fantasy option, to be honest. I wouldn't play Lockett. I wouldn't play. No, I'd play him. I'd play everyone. I'd play Debo, Kittle, obviously. CMC's fine. Yeah, this is going to be an awesome game.
There is one interesting point here is that George Kittle did not practice today with a hamstring. Kyle Shanahan has currently said he should be fine for Sunday, but it's in division. There could be a bit of bluffing going on there. Just keep an eye on that. If we get another DNP, I think we're looking at him probably not playing this week. In which case, I mean, you can probably start all three of the wide receivers if you wouldn't already. I found it interesting that Purdy fed everyone.
He did. Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
He's solid QB.
I've just seen the worst question, not the worst question, but the worst situation of all time. Lockett or Addison? Full PPR.
Lockett.
Yeah, I mean, Addison has the better matchup, but like Lockett. Better player. That's really why. Yeah, Lockett, that's grim. Lockett or Addison was the question, and Lockett is what we're going with. Now, game of the week for me, Bills, Chiefs. Yeah, this is good. You've got, I think Pacheco's been activated off IR, but he's not playing. So you've got Mahomes, Kareem the Dream Hunt is still going solid, 100 total yards last week, including 7 catches for 65 yards. I guess the big question I've got is, are you starting DeAndre Hopkins in this one?
Yeah, I think you do. I think you do. He's a flex play, but he's a real boom or bust in the saying that too. So, yeah, I think you do. Worthy, I don't start. You can't trust Worthy at all. But they're probably going to lean on the running game a lot in this matchup too, I'd say. Kareem Hunt could be in for a big one. But in saying that, Kareem Hunt's also been heavily involved in the passing game in the last week or two. So,
Mm.
yeah, I think this is a nice little matchup here for Kareem Hunt to work. He's probably been. He's not really good for any like big gains anymore, Kareem Hunt. He's good for like your 5 yards. Your 4 or 5 yards you need to garner out, and he's really good for that short work. But he won't come out and like rush for a 30-yard TD. That's just not him anymore. But hey, he's big bruising back now.
Yeah, it's worked well for them. I suppose the interesting point we've got here is that Juju Smith-Schuster returns to the lineup for the first time since his 130-yard game back in week 6 to week 5, 1 week off. That's not too bad. How do you think he will fit in with DeAndre Hopkins in this offense?
They probably roll with more Hopkins and Smith Schuster. It'll just hurt Smith Schuster's snap percentage, really.
Mm.
He might see maybe 50% of snaps, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, you'd think, yeah, they could get very creative with what they do in the passing game. On the flip side, are we going to see
How's
Amari
Coach?
Cooper put off the coaching hat and get on the field, or
I was
no?
going to say, how's Coach Coop looking? He's limited.
Limited, hasn't played for 2 weeks. Barely played
Coach
against the
Coop.
Seahawks. Barely played in his debut game for the Bills. I reckon he's quite literally gone there for a coaching contract. I reckon. Yeah, yeah. If he plays, I don't know, maybe for the fun you started, but like Khalil Shakir's still the guy to start in that wide receiver room.
Yeah, and no Kincaid either. So if you need a sneaky tight end this week, Dawson Knox wouldn't be too bad either. Who has done it before, really.
No Kincaid, did you say?
Yeah, he got banged up last week. I don't know if he was practicing today, but
Oh, DNP today. And what's the
yeah,
deal with Keon Coleman? Where's he?
he ain't playing this week either. Already ruled
Why's
out.
that?
So,
Have I missed that, have
uh,
I?
yeah, he's carrying some sort of injury.
No
But yeah,
worries. I'll fill in. Yeah, Dawson
already
Knox
ruled
would
out.
be a pretty solid streaming option. I mean, Josh Allen every week start, right? It'd be nice if he didn't rely on the rushing touchdown to get to a decent score this week, though, because he did throw 2 picks last week, and not that there's any doubt about his job. It's just like it'd be nice if he was good as a passer, not just a runner this week.
Yeah, yeah, and it's weird, man, because Kellen Coleman ruled out with that wrist injury. Amari Cooper ruled out. Well, hasn't played with a wrist injury the last couple of weeks. If I'm putting two and two together, these guys have been getting quite busy at training, watching some film. So, yeah, yeah, we won't go there, mate.
Not at this time slot, no. Okay, Bengals Chargers prime time. What's standing out to me? Chase Brown, he
Mm.
has arrived. He's gone back to back 20 plus 20 plus points PPR games. He's frequenting in the passing game. He's doing pretty good on the ground as well. He's a smash start for me this week. I get that it's the Chargers, but it's just bell cow RB1. Khalil Herbert's not going to do a thing.
Yeah, I want to see what Khalil Herbert's role is in this team. Obviously, they trade we haven't seen him play just yet, but does he play this week? We're not too sure. Is he going to be a goal line back? Is he going to be that vulture that steals those touchdowns over Chase Brown? We don't know. I think they're going to use him in some capacity. And Khalil Herbert's his best part of his game is it's his goal line work. So maybe not, but yeah, Chase Brown has that bell cow potential this week
Yeah.
if that work hasn't changed for sure.
And, if T. Higgins isn't day to day, which he still is, Jamar Chase would have a monster game, backing up last week's monster game. Did Higgins play last week? I don't think he did. No, he
Nah.
did play. That's what he did, apparently. Yeah.
Higgins.
No. Why is it saying he did play last week? He didn't, though. Okay. He didn't play. No, never mind. Which I'm surprised that Jamar Chase had his big game without Higgins there, based on what we've
Yeah.
talked about throughout the season.
Yeah, and it's a tough matchup too. So he's going to see a pretty damn good cornerback. The Chargers plus Dylan James looking over his shoulder. So could see the double team if T. Higgins does not play.
Yeah, which would kill his stocks. And of course, if T. Higgins doesn't play, you start Mike Gesicki. Yeah.
Yeah.
On the flip side, you've got Lad McConkey, who, after his big breakout game, had a solid game and then a quiet one last week. Would be nice if he bounced back in prime time. You know, just with something along the lines of a 5 for 60. Just something consistent. Be nice for him to start doing that. But hey, it's a new offense. He's a rookie. You can give him a bit of time. And the fact that Quentin Johnson doesn't totally suck helps this offense as well.
One thing I want to mention in this game, though,
Yeah.
is the running back situation with Dobbins and Gus Edwards. Now, Gus Edwards being back did see 10 carries last week, I think it was, or 10 or 11 carries, whatever it was, and looked good with those 10 carries too. I think it was 10 for 55 to be exact, top of my head. But I think I'm spot on. And I expect that to continue. And as DFAB said on Monday night, second half of the year when Gus Bus went nuts. So if they want to keep Dobbins healthy, then they're going to lean on the Gus Bus just a little bit more. And he saw the volume at the start of the year, just couldn't get the yardage. But yeah, mate, if he's fresh, ready to go, this could be a nice little pickup for any fantasy manager that's got Gus Bus off the waivers. So yeah, not too bad.
And imagine last week, like you're a Kamani Viddle owner, you see that there's 3 backs, like you see Gus Edwards is back, no worries. And well, you're like, okay, so Viddle's done now, no worries, that's fine. Then Hassan Haskins comes in and has a rushing touchdown, and you're like,
Yeah.
what the hell? How is Viddle the RB4? The
Yeah.
most hyped up RB4 of all time, I must say.
Yeah.
Anyway, Tuesday lunchtime or Monday night there for us, Texans, Cowboys. Nico Collins is back. But that's not what I want to talk about. How much of Cooper Rush are we going to see before Trey Lance starts at quarterback?
Yeah, it'll be Trey Lance eventually for sure. I mean, CD Lamb. What do you do with CD Lamb as a fantasy owner now? He's gonna cop just some bad QB
Hope that
play.
Trey Lance starts.
You probably try and sell CD Lamb honestly now at this point, but if you're selling him now, you're selling him lower, so you probably just hold. But if you can get a good deal for CD Lamb, I'd be getting off that wagon pretty damn quickly. But yeah, I do think Trey Lance will be in there sooner rather than later. Nico Collins has got potential to go big this week, but in saying that, it's just his first game off injury, so temper expectations there. But Tank Dell will be a nice start, in my opinion. I think him and Mixon especially, could be in for monster weeks.
Because if this game is locked away, the Texans would be crazy not to just run it. Now, that could be in the form of Dameon Pierce getting 10 carries in the third and fourth quarter. But you'd think Joe Mixon gets something out of this, wouldn't you?
Joe Mixon, I've got him in for like a monster game. Like I wouldn't be shocked if he's the RB1 for this week.
Yeah, you heard it here first. That probably does us, I reckon. I think that's all we wanted to cover. That's all the games. Yeah, thanks for listening. We'll be back on Monday. Looking at the week that was. Obviously, we wouldn't have reviewed this game, but everything else would have been reviewed and covered, and hopefully, Anthony Richardson bounces back from being the dumbest quarterback to ever start. Anyway, that's okay. He'll be back. He's the greatest. Anyway. All right. Thank you for listening. Catch you next time.
May think it amazing.